What's up, everybody? Jay here from Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with a top 10 video. So this video will be Derek and I's top 10 cards from Kaladesh for Commander. So these are just a list of 10 cards that we felt like were the most relevant cards, at least for us, from a EDH standpoint, cards that you would probably see, cards that we will, some of them anyway, will definitely be adding into some decks. But they're, cards that we feel like will make an impact on EDH, on the format. So without further ado, let's just kick it right off and get into our first card. So our first card here is Cataclysmic Gearhulk. He's a 5-cost, 4/5 artifact creature construct with vigilance. And when he enters the battlefield, each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among the non-land permanents he or she controls, and then sacrifices the rest. So that's a pretty potent ability. If you need a reset button on a stick, this will definitely do it for you. Basically, everybody gets to keep one type of permanent that they have on the board, and then the rest of it just goes away. Doesn't affect lands, but it's a very potent ability. Essentially, a mass board wipe for every type of permanent, except for one of each player's choosing. So, like I said, if you just need to wipe the board, you need to reset the game. Put everybody probably on an even playing field. This guy will do it for you. Plus, he's a 4/5 with vigilance to boot, so he's got a pretty nice body to him for his cost, but the ability is where he really shines. So, as a lot of you probably well know, EDH is a pretty wrath-heavy meta, so this guy I feel like would probably fit right into a lot of decks that run white. I would definitely try to cut him in to certain decks if I needed like an emergency button in the deck. So that's Cataclysmic Gearhulk. He's one of our top 10. Our next card is another Gearhulk, the red Gearhulk, Combustible Gearhulk. So he's a 6-cost, 6/6 with first strike. He's also an artifact creature construct. And when he enters the battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If the player doesn't, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then this Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. The reason why we have this on the list is because red has just about, no ways to draw cards in EDH. Red is kind of considered by a lot of people like the worst color that you could play in EDH. So seeing this card and seeing the fact that it's essentially like a browbeat on a 6/6 first striking body was pretty cool to us. So like I said, red doesn't have a lot of ways to draw cards. There's a couple of ways. There's like creatures that allow you to loot, like draw and then discard. Then there's a couple spells that allow you to discard and then draw. But there's really not a lot of ways in red to draw cards. So this guy will let you do that, and even if the person that you target with him says, well, I don't want you to draw 3 cards, so you mill your top 3, and then that person will take damage equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. So if you have a way to manipulate the top of your deck, maybe with a Sensei's Divining Top, or a crystal ball, or something that lets you scry, you could set up those cards and then, target somebody when this guy comes out. And if they don't let you draw the cards and you set up the cards on top of your deck, you could definitely make it hurt for them. Or alternatively, you could just draw the 3 cards if they don't want to take that chance and take a bunch of damage. So, plus he's a 6/6 with first strike, so he's probably going to take out just about every creature that he goes to combat with. Just the fact that he has that potential card draw on him is really, really nice. Hell, even if your opponent says, no, I don't want you to draw cards, Another cool thing about that is if you're playing some sort of reanimator strategy, this guy will dump cards in your graveyard. So maybe you want to, maybe you're playing reanimator, maybe you're playing some sort of delirium style effect in your deck. This guy's just got a lot of upside. So that's another card that Derek and I chose to put on our top 10. Next up, we have Cultivators Caravan. It's a 3-cost artifact vehicle. So vehicles are a thing in Kaladesh. So basically with vehicles, this isn't a creature unless you activate this crew mechanic. So this one is tap any number of creatures you control with total power 3 or more, hence the crew 3. And then this vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So if you do that, it animates into a 5/5. That I don't really care too much about. I mean, it's a nice added bonus. The reason why we put this on the list is it's basically just a better Darksteel Ingot. Well, minus the indestructibility. I mean, the Darksteel Ingot can't be destroyed. This can, but it can also animate into a 5/5 if you need it to be. Darksteel Ingot, you can't do that unless you have like a Karn Silver Golem or like a Tezzeret the Seeker or something that animates your artifacts into creatures. So yeah, I mean, just about everybody plays mana rocks in their deck in EDH, so this is a mana rock that can potentially turn into a 5/5 beater for you. So henceforth, it made the list for us. Next up, we have Demon of Dark Schemes. He's a 6-cost 5/5 flyer. When he enters the battlefield, all other creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever another creature dies, you get an energy counter, and you can pay 2 and a black and pay 4 energy to put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control tapped. So the reason why we like this guy is when he comes in, he'll give everything a -2/-2. So if your opponent's playing like a token strategy, this guy will probably wipe their board of all their tokens. Granted that they have 2 or less toughness. But I mean, most tokens, unless they're getting some sort of benefit from another card, most tokens are generally 1/1s or 2/2s. So this guy has the potential to wipe out a lot of things when he comes in. And if he does, for every creature that dies, you get 1 energy counter. So let's say your opponent has 10 1/1 saplings on the board, and then you play this guy. Well, all 10 of those saplings are going to die, and then you're going to generate 10 energy counters off of this guy because 10 creatures just died. And then you can also use those energy counters and 2 and a black to resurrect any creature out of any graveyard and put it onto the board under your control. It does come into play tapped, but hey, you're animating whatever you want from whoever's graveyard, for basically 3 mana. Yeah, you have to spend those energy counters too, but you're going to rack up those energy counters real easy with this guy because all you have to do is have a creature die. It doesn't even have to be your creature, it can be anybody's creature. Whenever a creature dies, you get 1 energy. So you could definitely rack up the energy counters real quick on this guy and then just start reanimating things right onto the board under your control. And he's a 5/5 flyer, so lots and lots of upsides to this guy. Alright, our next card is a Planeswalker. It's Dovin Bond. He's a 4-cost white and blue Planeswalker. He comes in with 3 loyalty. His first ability is +1 until your next turn. Up to 1 target creature gets -3/-0, and its activated abilities can't be activated. -1, you gain 2 life and draw a card. And -7, you get an emblem with your opponents. Can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap steps. So this guy is just bonkers. If you're playing blue-white in EDH, you probably want to be playing this guy. You probably want to pick up copies of him if you have decks that run blue and white. He's just phenomenal. Everything that he does is great for EDH. His +1, he protects himself. So, you can give a creature a -3/-0, so it's going to have 3 less power. and its activated abilities can't be activated. That's what I really like about it, is that, you could target, maybe your opponent has some sort of creature on the board that has some sort of nasty tap ability. Well, you can lock it down with this guy. Granted that they could probably activate it in response to you doing that, but after that ability resolves, they can't do it again until your next turn. Then his second ability is life gain and card draw. Two welcome things in Commander. Not really much more to say about that. And his emblem is just really bonkers, too. If you get that off, your opponent can't untap more than 2 permanents. That's just going to lock your opponent down, and they're not going to be able to do much of anything. If they have 20 lands on the board, they can only untap up to 2 of them, unless they untap some other permanents that they have on the board. But that emblem is completely back-breaking, and if you get that off, you're probably going to win the game very shortly. So that's Dovin Bond. Our next card is Fumigate. Basically, it's a Wrath. 5 cost, white sorcery, destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. So, just another Wrath that you have access to in white. White has lots of Wrath. It's got this now. It's got Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, all kinds of other spells. Some of them just, the names of them elude me at the moment, but there's plenty of white Wraths. But now you have access to another one, and it gains you life for every creature that dies, so that's always a welcome thing. Next up we have Metallurgic Summonings. It's a 5-cost blue enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create an XX colorless construct artifact creature token where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Then you can pay 3 and 2 blue and exile this to return all instant and sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Activate this ability only if you control 6 or more artifacts. That second part is really good if you really need to refill your hand with all your spells that you've cast during the game. But what I really like about it is that every time you cast an instant or sorcery, you're going to generate a creature token equal to the mana cost of the spell you just cast. And let's face it, if you're playing blue, you're probably playing a hefty amount of instants and sorceries. So you just get value off of casting your instants and sorceries with this. And, like I said, it's got that secondary ability where you can pay 5 and exile it to return all of those spells that you cast to your hand, so you can reuse them again. Next up, we have another Planeswalker. We have Nissa Vital Force. She's a 5-cost green walker with 5 loyalty. Her +1, untap target land you control until your next turn. It becomes a 5/5 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. -3, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. -6, you get an emblem with whenever you landfall, basically, you may draw a card. She's just amazing. Every aspect of her is great. We usually always see a very similar ability to her +1. She animates a land into a guy, and you can smash face with it. I mean, we see that basically all the time with her. What I really like about her is the 2 minus abilities. The -3 is basically an Eternal Witness. Not as good as an Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness will return any card. This one will only return a permanent card, so you can't target instants and sorceries with it. But, the fact that you can basically bring back a creature, a planeswalker, a land, an artifact, an enchantment. Lots of options there for you to get some recursion out of your graveyard. And the emblem, whenever you play a land, you can draw a card, just pure value. Not much else to really talk about that. Card draw is always king in Commander, so. Next up, we have an artifact in Panharmonicon, a 4-cost artifact. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So what's absolutely bonkers about this is pretty obvious. The fact that you get to basically abuse any like enter the battlefield effect is just insane. It's great. This card, I'm calling it right now, is going to be an EDH staple going forward. There's just so many different cards that you see with enter the battlefield effects, and this will copy those effects. And I'm pretty sure that it does work that way. So, I mean, the way that it's worded, if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger. So, if you, let's say you play a Grave Titan. So, Grave Titan says when it enters the battlefield, it does this thing. So, once it enters the battlefield, it's now a permanent. Once it's resolved, it's now permanent on the board, and then its enter the battlefield effect triggers. So, with that said, this says if a artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, so as it enters the battlefield, it's now permanent. So now, if you have a Grave Titan resolve, if you have this on the board, I'm almost positive it works this way. You will basically get 2 enter the battlefield effects out of your Grave Titan. So, and that works for any other creature that you have on the board that comes in that has some sort of enter the battlefield effect. Even if it's not a creature with its own enter the battlefield effect, also if you already have something on the board that has some sort of triggered ability, when something else comes into play or enters the battlefield, this will also do that as well, where it'll cause it to trigger a second time. So the shenanigans that you could do with this card is almost endless. Just enter the battlefield effect abuse for days. And like I said, I'm calling it right now. This card right here is going to be an EDH staple going forward. I really feel like it will. Okay, and our last card on our top 10 is Aetherworks Marvel. It's another artifact. It's a legendary artifact. Costs 4 to play. Whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard, you get an energy counter. Pretty simple. Every time anything on your side of the board dies, you get an energy counter. Then you can tap it and pay 6 energy. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a card from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I want probably at least 1 playset of this card, maybe 2. I want to throw this into just about every deck that I have. You're going to generate those energy counters pretty easy. Obviously, certain decks will benefit from it more than other decks would. For instance, I could think of, just off the top of my head, this card would be bonkers in my Prosh deck. So if I have this down on the board, say I cast Prosh, and everybody knows what, well, just about everybody knows what Prosh does. So if I cast him for the first time in the game, he costs 6 mana to cast. So off of me casting him, he's going to generate me those 6/0/1 Cobalt tokens. Let's say I immediately sacrifice those 6 tokens away to Prosh to give him a +6/+0. Maybe I have a haste outlet so I can swing right away with him. Maybe I slapped a Lightning Greaves or something on him and I can swing right away with him. So I sacrifice those 6 kobolds, which is going to trigger the Aetherworks Marvel, which is going to give me 6 energy counters. And then I can immediately activate Aetherworks Marvel, tap it, and pay that 6 energy, and look at my top 6 and cast any card I want out of those 6 cards for free, and then put the rest on the bottom of my library. So not only am I casting a card for nothing, I'm also filtering through my deck a lot faster. So this card is also a card that I believe is going to be an EDH staple. I just feel like it's just really, really good. It's really, really powerful. You're going to rack up energy counters with this relatively easily. Obviously, if you have a deck that has like a heavy sacrifice theme, you're going to benefit from it more. But let's face it, things are going to die constantly in EDH, especially creatures. It's a wrath-heavy meta, as I say a lot, because it is. So you're going to rack up those energy counters pretty easily. And especially, like I said, if you have a deck that you're playing that has a heavy sacrifice theme, you're going to generate those energy counters even faster. And then just being able to cast a card for free off of your top 6 is just phenomenal. And then also, you're filtering through your deck faster every time you activate that. So, Aetherworks Marvel, I love this card. It's going in my Prosh deck, it's going to go in my Mazarek deck, it's going to go in a lot of decks that I have. Just, the only problem right now is it's about, like, a $9 card or so. So, I kind of want to wait for it to go down a little bit, and then maybe pick up a playset or 2 of it. But yeah, that's our last card on our top 10 list of cards from Kaladesh that Derek and I felt like that would have the most impact on EDH. So let me know what you guys think of this list. If you agree or disagree, if there's any cards from Kaladesh that you think belonged on this list, leave me some comments in the comment section below and let me know. Thumbs up the video if you did enjoy it. It really does help out a lot. The more you thumbs up our videos, the easier they are for other people to find. So, yeah. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, Tap and Turn Gaming, right here, please crush this subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. But this has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming. Again, this has been our top 10 list of cards from Kaladesh for EDH. Hope everybody enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll catch you later in the next video.